We shall remain standing for the national anthem. We shall remain standing for the national anthem. We shall remain standing as Brigadier General Reverend Shadrach Mwale, Director General, Religious and Moral Services, Zambia Army, comes to offer a prayer.
Psalm 33, verse 12, 13, and 18. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom he has chosen as his own inheritance. The Lord looks down from heaven. He sees all the children of men. See, the eye of the Lord is on those who fear him, on those who hope in his mercy. Shall we pray? O Lord, bless us, bless your people. Bless all the nations that are presented here this afternoon. Look to us with great mercy, love, and in your faithfulness. Lord, we thank you for this segment of the African Landforce Summit, being graced by the President of the Republic of Zambia and Commander-in-Chief of the Zambian Defense Force, Mr. HAKAINDE HICHILEME. We pray that, God, you may continue to bless him, continue to show him your love, grant him grace, wisdom, and excellence in his leadership as he governs this country. We thank you this afternoon for every commander that is present here today. Use them as your instruments of your peace and security in our world. Grace this official ceremony with your divine presence. This is our prayer that we make, that God be with us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We may be seated. The President of the Republic of Zambia and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Force of Zambia, Mr. HAKAINDE HICHILEME, the Honorable Minister of Defense, Honorable Ambrose Luigi Lufuma MP, invited Cabinet Ministers, the Provincial Minister for Southern Province, Honorable Credo Nanjua MP, Your Worship, the Mayor of the City of Livingstone, Ms. Constance Mleyabai, the co-hosts of this summit, the Zambia Army Commander, Lieutenant General Study Dennis Alibuzwi, Major General Todd Randall Wasman, Commanding General for Southern European Task Force Africa. May I also recognize the presence of Lieutenant General John Brennan, Jr., the Deputy Commanding General for United States Africa Command, the land component commanders from the various African countries present today, also commanders from partner nations from across Europe and South America, the service chiefs from the Zambia Defense and Security Wings, senior government officials present, the Permanent Secretary for Southern Province, Dr. Namani Monze, other invited permanent secretaries, the District Commissioner for Livingstone, Madam Eunice Zulu Nawa, invited district commissioners from the province of Southern Province, the Army Sergeant Major, Warrant Officer Class 1, Mande Nonde, Command Sergeant Major for SITAF, Sergeant Major Tiko, all senior enlisted leaders from the various countries here present today. May I simply say, distinguished summit attendants, including the press, good afternoon. I am Brigadier General Jethro Chipidi to anchor this afternoon's program. This afternoon's program shall run as follows. Shortly after I finish my remarks, I shall call upon to the podium Major General Todd Randall Wasman to give his remarks. After he has done so, he will be followed by the Honorable Minister of Defense to come up and give his remarks, as well as invite Mr. President to address us. Thereafter, after the President has addressed us, we shall give 3 to 5 minutes for the land component commanders to shake up and take their positions for a photo session which will be done just in front of the screen, the positions that each one of you is going to take during the photo shootout. My appeal. I want to appeal to everyone, once the positions are flashed for the photo session, that you take note and you walk straight to your allotted position for the photo shootout. Once we are satisfied with the number of photos, because it is rare that you have the Republican president in your midst, so you want to take as many photos as possible, we shall remain standing like that, and we shall hear the national anthem, and then Mr. President will leave. Mr. President, the Africa Land Forces Summit, as you have been briefed, has been going on from Monday. Running under the theme, Regional Solutions to Transnational Problems. In here, Mr. President, are commanders of land forces here in Africa, from all the regional economic communities in Africa. And therefore, this has given us a platform on which to engage on best practices, how we can curb challenges, security challenges of a transnational nature. Like you always say, you were quoted, Mr. President, by my commander, General Alibuzwi, in his speech when he started. Instability anywhere is instability everywhere. The members of the summit have been engaging so that we can get and have the Africa we want. Mr. President, it's now my rare honor and privilege to call to the podium the Commanding General, Southern European Task Force Africa, Major General Todd Randall Wasman.
General Shipili, thank you very much. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the 41st Chief of Staff of the United States Army, General Randy George, the Commanding General of the United States Army Europe and Africa, General Darrell Williams, and the Commander of U.S. AFRICOM and the entire team at the United States Army Southern European Task Force Africa, it is my distinct honor and my privilege to welcome you to the 2024 African Land Forces Summit. The President of Zambia, President HICHILEME, it is a true honor and a privilege to be standing here before you and to offer a welcome before your introduction. Please join me in giving the President a warm welcome with a round of applause. This really is a special day for ALFs and for the United States Army and our partners here in the Zambia Army. For the first time in the history of the African Land Forces Summit, we have the honor of welcoming a head of state. And that speaks to the growing power and the tremendous, please. That speaks to the growing power and the tremendous potential of gathering together at ALFs and strengthening our partnerships in common cause. I want to thank the President for taking the time out of your busy schedule to address us here today. I also want to thank the President for agreeing to co-host ALFs this year in 2024 here in the majestic city of Livingston. This has been a world-class event, and the United States Army has received tremendous support from Lieutenant General Alabuzwe and the Honorable Minister of Defense and the entire Zambia Army at every step along the way. Their professionalism and collaboration has been unparalleled, and that's a testament to the strength of the leadership throughout the Zambian government. Mr. President, again, welcome and thank you for being here. And I will now turn the floor over to the Honorable Minister of Defense, the Honorable Mr. Lufuma.
The Republican President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Force of Zambia, Mr. HAKAINDE HICHILEME, Cabinet Ministers present here today, the Provincial Minister, Southern Province, the Mayor of Livingston, Permanent Secretaries present here today, the host of this summit, Zambia Army Commander, the co-host of the summit, Commander Southern European Task Force for Africa, the United States Army, service chiefs from the Defense Force of Zambia and other security wings, commanders from across Africa, United States of America, Europe, and South America. Summit panelists, distinguished delegates, the media, both local as well as international. Please allow me to simply say, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Summit delegates, the Ministry of Defense, and all distinguished invited guests, commanders from across our African continent, Europe, America, and South America, and indeed on my own behalf, I warmly and cordially welcome you, Mr. President, to this prestigious 12th session of the African Land Forces Summit being hosted by the Zambia Army and co-hosted by the United States Army here in the beautiful city and capital, Livingstone, tourist capital, Livingstone, whose theme is regional solutions to transnational problems. Mr. President, this summit brings together land force commanders from Africa, America, Europe, and South America, giving them a rare opportunity and platform to interact and learn from one another, share their experience and expertise, and thereafter adopt the best practices to tackle security and land forces' common challenges with African solutions. As you are aware, Mr. President, a peaceful continent of Africa, or indeed any other continent for that matter, is a prerequisite to meaningful economic development and progress, whose importance cannot be overemphasized. I therefore wish to sincerely thank the organizing committee for the great job done towards actualizing this 12th edition of the African Forces Summit here in Livingstone. Mr. President, just a couple of days ago, I was informed that the summit, I have courtesy of you, Mr. President, just a couple of days ago, I informed the summit that I have courtesy of Mr. President, of course, attended several conferences and summits. But I must confess here today that none of the conferences or summits I've attended has been so meticulously planned, organized, coordinated, and better still, executed. I first was wondering as to why, but then I was reminded, Mr. President, that it was a military, the Defense Forces Summit, and the military are renowned for their meticulous planning and execution. In fact, if you may, Mr. President, terms such as strategic planning or goal-oriented project planning, operational planning, are all or stem from the military. Little wonder then as to why this meticulously planned and executed summit. I think the organizing committee deserves a big hand. Please give them a big hand. Mr. President, the other item that I would like to share, wish to mention here, is that I was informed, and fortunately it has been said already, but I will repeat nevertheless, that since the Land Forces Summit was inaugurated in 2010, this is the very first time ever it has been graced by a head of state, the President. You don't know how grateful this audience and indeed this summit is at availing us this rare occasion and the opportunity to meet with us. It means so much to us, believe you me. To this, we are most indebted and say thank you so very much, sir, Mr. President. Thank you. And now, Mr. President, sir, distinguished delegates, this is not my platform to make a long and winding speech, but a rare occasion to facilitate for you, Mr. President, to address the summit. It is therefore my singular honor and privilege to invite you, Mr. President, to address this prestigious 12th session of the African Land Forces Summit. Mr. President, sir.
You may take your seats, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me acknowledge the presence of the Minister of Defense, who has just spoken, my colleagues in the Zambian cabinet that are present, Provincial Minister, Mayor of the city of Livingstone, beautiful city of Livingstone. Let me acknowledge the co-hosts, our Army Commander, the other co-hosts, Commander, Southern European Task Force, Africa, of the United States of America. Let me acknowledge the presence of the commanders, you, our commanders from our continent, the African continent, from Europe, from the US, from South America. We're extremely happy to have you in Livingstone today. Let me also acknowledge summit panelists, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and I must say it is really, really my great pleasure, first and foremost, to welcome you here, those coming from outside of Zambia, to welcome you here in the beautiful city of Livingstone, the host to the Victoria Force, the mighty Victoria Force, which we call in our local languages, two of them, Musi Otunya, all the local name, true local name, Shungu na Mutitima. We are happy to welcome you to the country as well at large. And we hope that despite the military tight time frames, you will have a little bit of a moment after your summit to look around, to get to understand Livingstone and our country a bit more. So we invite you to spend extra days, and of course money, in our country. We want to express to this distinguished gathering of commanders how delighted we are as a country that 38 plus African countries, as I said, a team from Europe, the US, and South America would be gathering here in our country in the days we've been here and those few days that are coming ahead of us. Let me also express our delight to the choice of the theme, regional solutions to transnational problems, how can we have a better theme than this? I don't think so. I don't think there's a better theme than this one. This is an extremely appropriate theme, given the challenges that we're all going through on our continent and beyond. So thank you to the selectors of the theme. Let me also continue in my expression of appreciation that we feel greatly honored as Zambia and the government, the people, our army commander, and his colleagues for choosing us to host this important summit. We don't take it for granted. We know that Côte d'Ivoire hosted a summit like this. We know that it could have gone to another country, but it's come here. We're very delighted and thankful for that. It's an honor to us as a country. So thank you very much for that. As chair, myself, of the organ on politics, defense, and security, of our regional economic community called SADC, Southern African Development Community, we are extremely active working with other member states to make sure that our region is stable. And we know the importance of keeping SADC stable so that we don't contribute to instability to other parts of Africa and invariably the world. So we're working very hard as an organ, as a regional bloc, to make sure that we do everything possible to keep our individual countries and our member states in this region stable. We have one or two issues in northern Mozambique, Cabo Delgado. We have issues in eastern Congo, eastern DRC. And we as an organ, as SADC, are doing everything possible to keep all of our countries in a stable, secure position. And that's important, not to Mozambicans alone, not to DRC citizens alone, but to all of us in the region. And we do believe, and we know that other regional community or bodies are working hard to keep their regional organizations secure and stable. In Africa, we would have a chance in hell to be stable if all our regional bodies are stable. This is how important we consider peace, security, and stability. Collaboration is important, very important. Let me clearly state that this gathering provides a valuable opportunity to share best practices. Best practices on how we can collectively foster peace across our various regions. This is extremely important because sometimes if we have no issues in our country, we begin to feel that our responsibility ends there. Absolutely not. We are each other's keeper within our countries, within our regional blocs, within our continent, and our global community. We are each other's keeper. There is no doubt about it. Experience has shown us that if we turn a blind eye on what's happening elsewhere, we are behaving like ostriches, sticking our heads in the sand, and then assume that the whole body is safe, but the rest of the body is exposed outside. We shouldn't behave like ostriches at all. Diversity is key, and we are aware of that. We recognize and appreciate that each African country here belongs to one of these regional bodies, these communities. There may be differences in the composition of these countries in these blocks, but those differences are extremely valuable and should not be a source of some divisive behavior, some non-caring behavior, because they basically add on to the diversity essential for approaching problems that we face in a multiple way, multidisciplinary, multicultural, and otherwise. So that we recognize and we value as an asset, not a liability. I wish to state that each community obviously may have little dimensional differences, but this is not the way we should look at things and focus on those areas. We focus on the whole package, and the whole package needs to be considered as our own, and therefore we internalize, not because of the commanders and the command structure, but as individual men and women in uniform, individual citizens, we internalize the importance of taking care of each other. I already said that we are each other's keeper. And then it's easier for the commanders to provide leadership. When at individual level, we acknowledge that this is our responsibility. Stability, security of our regions, our countries, and the global community is our responsibility. Let me express that we appreciate that the summit offers a significant opportunity for commanders of our armies to discuss tailor-made security solutions for our continent. Very important for us to succeed in what we do. It is important to understand sometimes Africa's instability or sources of instability are triggered by a myriad of factors, some of which are to do with our heritage, some of which are historical, yes, heritage, but cultural, geographical. I must not escape to mention here that some of our challenges emanate from economic and social challenges. And it is important that we recognize again this diversity of possible causes of challenges on our continent. And then if we do understand them, it is easier to tackle them, to deal with them in an effective manner. We acknowledge the importance of partnership. We acknowledge our partners' role in enabling these tailor-made solutions through capacity-building activities, which are many, but they include a summit like this one, no doubt about it. And I can see the levels of attention that you are giving to me as I speak. That alone underscores the importance of what would arise, what arises out of summits like this. Learning from each other, sharing experiences, avoiding reinventing the wheel. When an occurrence happens similar to what happened elsewhere, we'll be ready to tackle it and tackle it more effectively. On that score, I wish to offer our gratitude to the United States of America, particularly the Southern European Task Force, for your consistent support and role in organizing and co-hosting this summit. You have done this for other summits. We don't take that for granted. We don't take friendship, this continent should not take friendship, alumni of this nature, for granted. We value it, we appreciate it. Please pass our message to the rest of the American community. We thank President Biden and his team for this support. Let me extend the commendation with regard to the decision to host subsequent summits in Africa. This, as I said, provides proper context to the issues that we face, to the challenges that we face. And the theme cannot be any better than what it is, as I said at the beginning. Let me make a declaration, and I do believe I'm qualified to do that on behalf of my other leaders on this continent, that we declare as leaders that we're committed to bettering our continent through accelerated economic development, which by that order leads to social development. I come from the business background, and I know that you cannot have social development without having functional economies. Without economic functionality, it's almost impossible to support the weak in society, the old, the retired, the young, those that live with disabilities. So we are committed to working hard as a leadership. After all, we are elected to do what I'm just saying, to better the lives of our citizens. That's our primary core. And that's why we occupy public offices granted to us by God through our citizens who go to vote and put us in office. And we have an obligation to serve our people so we can improve their lives. That includes men and women in uniform. That includes those who command the men and women in uniform. We need a stable Africa. That's our declaration. Working with yourselves as our land force commanders, land force teams beyond our national boundaries. And this summit cannot provide any better opportunity or platform for you to exchange notes so we can better our continent. A continent which is rich in resource endowments, but these people are not as comfortable as they should be. So we declare as leaders that we're committed to achieving that betterment of the lives of our people. But we also know that we cannot achieve this without maintaining peace, security, and stability. And that's where you come in. That's your primary responsibility as the people seated in this hall, working with the rest of our citizens on this continent and beyond. And as you know, we cannot work as islands. We work in unison with others in this our global community. So, our call to action, therefore, is that we urge everyone to contribute to ensuring a stable continent that upholds enduring peace, security, and stability to facilitate the bare minimum economic growth and indeed social side. I hasten to say, we as leaders are now saying we have to have a reform of the global financial system that will look at Africa in 4 ways. One, to make sure Africa accesses capital which is fairly priced. This continent pays the highest cost of capital than any other. We would like to see improvements in that area. Number 2, We would like Africa to get the best technology that is available, not a second rate, but the best. Number 3, we would like Africa to work with the global community as partners in the investment area, projects, mining, call it anything, energy, green energy, given the climate change damage that has been caused to our environment. You know that you're visiting us when we're facing the worst drought ever in this country, occasioned by climate change. So green energy, for example, is important to us to partner with the global community to exploit the green energy opportunities. And Africa doesn't want to continue talking about opportunities. We want to realize these opportunities, to connect to the point I was making earlier. And the 4th area is that we would like to work, and our men and women in uniform, our land force commanders, as for other services, need to know the agenda of their leaders. We, the servants, your servants, that the 4th element being that we want to value add the resource endowments on our continent. And that will help us grow our economies quicker, accelerated economic growth, and therefore social support. I think it's important that we use this opportunity to share that too. And it delivers mutual benefits to our global partners as well. And Africa and our countries will become worthy partners, genuine worthy partners in these partnerships. That's our core. Let me congratulate organizers once more. Join my colleague, Minister of Defense, for congratulating organizers of this summit, choosing the theme, the appropriate theme, of course, making a decision to locate the summit here. We congratulate you and thank you for that. But also, if I return to the theme a little bit, to look at localized solution for transnational problems is extremely important. But let me add something here. The local solution approach in the context of transnational challenges must be coupled with 3 things, in my view. International community must provide or work with us on the continent in 3 areas. Many, but just I choose 3 areas. 1 is intelligence sharing. Very important for us to achieve success. Intelligence sharing. Number 2, sharing capabilities. Sharing capabilities. Including, number 3, technology. Remember, I just talked about technology. I think in today's environment, technological applications are very important because we can also reduce putting our men and women in harm's way unnecessarily when we're able to apply technology to what we're doing to maintain peace, stability, security. African solidarity is very important. We want to state that true to the African spirit, a good neighbor cannot remain passive when another's house is on fire. Not possible if you are normal. And I believe many of us are normal. The neighbor would assist in extinguishing that fire. Given the nature of our villages, because your roof is almost touching the roof of the neighbor. So if you don't help the neighbor extinguish the fire will extend to you. Indeed, my saying, and I'm very pleased that it's being repeated, confirms what I've been saying for years since I took public office 2 years and 6 months ago, that instability anywhere is instability everywhere. It's a matter of the extent of the impact. Don't we know that from the Ukraine-Russia war? That we on Africa are importing inflation arising from that war. Commodity prices, fuel, fertilizer, food. So we can't say we are shielded from the Ukraine-Russia war. It affects us on our continent. So is the issues in Cabo Delgado, northern Mozambique. So are the issues in eastern Congo. This country shares 1,900 kilometers of a border, land border, with Congo. Now, if eastern Congo is in trouble, we are in trouble immediately. That's just for illustration. Let me express our appreciation about the broad representation at this summit. Truly, this will facilitate discussion on proposed solutions to transnational security challenges, which are beneficial when resolved to all of us. In conclusion, I wish to encourage you to be open-minded during your discussions. We expect military men to be that anyway, with lesser diplomas but politeness. Lesser diplomas but politeness, but be direct with each other as we strive to make our continent and the world a better place to live in, to do business in, to raise our children in. The environment under which we raise our children is very important. Children raised in a war, unstable environment grow up differently from those raised in peaceful environments. So this is important for us and our grandchildren and the genetic material that will follow us as nature has it. I wish you a fruitful deliberations in this location, this atmosphere, and thank you for your kind attention. God bless you.
We may be seated. Mr. President, as you were delivering the speech, my eyes kept running to and fro to check if there was even one that was dozing. Because the meals here, Mr. President, have been good. So I was expecting that I would see even one dozing. Alas, there was not even one because of the message that was coming from you. Before the photo session, Mr. President, allow me to just move a vote of thanks on behalf of the land component commanders that are here, based on the speech which you have just delivered. On behalf of all the summit delegates, Mr. President, we, as the military, as an instrument of national power, we are known to be rigid, and yet we are also known to be flexible. So one may ask how that is possible. An organization that is rigid and at the same time flexible. We are rigid in the sense that we do things according to orders and instructions. But we are flexible to change when these orders and instructions change. And we have heard from you and are willing to move according to the orders. Mr. President, thank you so much on behalf of the land component commanders here for gracing this esteemed gathering with your presence. Your speech, Mr. President, has left all of us in here reassured that the political leadership on the continent is doing all it can to deliver the Africa we want. Indeed, Mr. President, you highlighting the need to share intelligence, the need to share capabilities, including the need to share technology, cannot be overemphasized. And that has been something that has been talked about in this dome from the time the summit began. As men and women in uniform, ours after what you have said is to share a concomitant responsibility to play our part in ensuring that the continent has enduring peace, to facilitate for the much needed development. Mr. President, your sense of Pan-Africanism is admirable. You have assured us that our region and our continent as a whole, the leaders are making strides in ensuring that we have a stable continent. You have also promoted unity in diversity, that in spite of our different backgrounds, in spite of our different cultures, in spite of our different religions, we should work together for peace. Once more, Mr. President, we thank you on behalf of the co-hosts, the Zambia Army, and the Southern European Task Force Africa, and all the over 40 land component commanders represented here from the countries where they are coming from, for finding time to come and address this esteemed gathering. Distinguished delegates, may I now ask you to rise to your feet as we give another round of applause to Mr. President for the reassuring speech. Thank you so much. You may be seated. Before we go to the photo session, I'm going to ask that we flash on the screen, and I'll give the land component commanders a minute or two to see where each one of us is going to stand during the photo session.